Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, National Parts Depot and Penrite Oil. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Classic Restos. Of course, not possible without the continued support of Shannons Insurance, National Parts Depot and Penrite Oil. Look at this, isn't she lovely? A 1951 Ford Victoria. You'd be crazy to have a classic car like this and not have it with Shannons Insurance. Why not pick up the phone and give them a call on 134646. You can even visit Shannons online at shannons.com.au. And while you're there, why not sign up and become a member of the Shannons Club? When it comes time for parts to restore your American Ford classic, such as this one, National Parts Depot offer you a 3 million part inventory, and they ship to Australia and New Zealand every day. Check them out when you get a moment online at npdlink.com. When it comes time for the very best in classic vehicle, home and contents insurance, 3 million parts to restore your American GM or Ford classic car. And of course the finest in oil and coolants, go to classicrestos.com.au for more information. And as I make my way towards the Woodward Dream Cruise, Detroit is about car culture. And here is some more for you at the outstanding Roush Collection. The Roush Automotive Collection is located in the Detroit metropolitan area, hosting a 30,000 square foot private facility. As soon as you walk through the door, collapse, then pick yourself up. And through blurry eyes, you will see collections comprising wide varieties of displays, multimedia exhibits, artefacts, memorabilia, and 110 plus vehicles dedicated to the preservation of the heritage of Roush Enterprises. If you're a Ford fan, and even if you're not, when you do your Fletch Detroit tour, this will be on the list as a must-see. The collection contains educational exhibits of products and processes from Roush as a supplier of tech services to the automotive industry, aviation industry, and other manufactured goods businesses. Roush Racing is represented in the collection through the preservation of race cars, trophies, team equipment, photographs, and other artefacts signifying over 40 years of motorsports achievements. The Roush Automotive Collection is a private facility. Visitors may tour the collection by appointment only. How cool is this opportunity? With me now we have Jack Jr. Welcome to today's show, Jack.
Hey, welcome to the museum, Fletch.
Mate, it's a nice office. I could dig coming to work here every day.
Oh yeah, this is a big collection of toys that the Roush family and Roush companies put together over quite a few years.
Got to ask you, how does it feel to be a Roush?
Well, that's an interesting question. I get asked that a lot. I've obviously never known it any other way, but we have a lot of fun with what we do. It's, we're not making commodities, we're making things that people are very passionate about, and that's something that we take great pride and enjoyment in.
It goes back a long way with your father. The collection of toys here, where did it all start? How did it start?
Well, I don't know if you can see some of the older cars in the back there, but a lot of these cars, in fact all of them, are cars that especially my dad has a very close personal connection to. A lot of the collection, a lot of the older cars in the collection are pace cars that he developed for Ford. They're also race cars throughout our company's history, and in quite a few other cars as well.
So to give us a rundown, so your father worked for Ford and he wanted to become a NASCAR racer, so he started at grassroots and just worked his way up back in a time where it was obviously possible.
Well, actually he started racing professionally while he was at Ford. He started with the Ford Fastbacks, and that's where he met Wayne Gap. They then took their racing together and developed Wayne Gap, or Gap and Roush. And from that point, my dad eventually split off and started Jack Roush Performance Engineering, still in drag racing. which he did for a number of years. Then for about maybe 4 years, he took some time off and focused on a go-karting program that I helped out with. But soon after that period, he went on to do road racing, and following that, NASCAR.
Jack, that's amazing stuff. Now stick around, because after the break we'll be back talking to Jack about some NASCARs and some other pretty cool stuff here at the Roush Collection. With me now we have Brendan, the National Training Manager, Penrite Oil. Now Brendan, tell us, what do the numbers mean on the front of the oil? You go and buy oil, what numbers should we go for? Tell us.
Okay, Fletch. Well, the numbers are very easy. There'll be two numbers on the front of a bottle of oil. One will be preceded with a W after it. W stands for winter. That's the cold viscosity of the oil. It's actually how the oil will pump when it's cold, and it's measured at a certain temperature depending on what the number is. The second number is the operating temperature of the oil. Generally, the higher the number, the better the film strength or thickness in the oil when it's the oil's operated at hot, which is actually measured at 100 degrees centigrade.
Okay, so lower the number, more late model cars, tolerances, clearances?
Yeah, generally find the lower the first number, newer cars will take a lower viscosity oil, and that's because they have overhead valves, multiple cams, etc., and it's all up the top of the motor, so it's got to be able to pump quickly to get to the top of the engine. Whereas in older cars that have got camshafts down the middle of the engine and lifters and push rods, etc., they will generally use a higher viscosity oil.
Now, the major sponsor has a tech line number. You can find out that number when you visit the website classicrestos.com.au. Click on their logo, you know who they are. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Fletch.
Well, I hope you're really enjoying these Detroit-based episodes of Classic Restos, thanks to Shannons Insurance, National Parts Depot and Penrite Oil. Stay in your favourite chair, back with more right after this. Welcome back. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How about you, Fletch?
I'm good, mate. Good. Got to be good in a place like this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, a lot of NASCARs here, you could just walk around here for hours, but one particular one that comes to mind, this Viagra car. Now, Jack, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, this car is fat.
I don't know about that, but I think it has a lot of power.
I believe that being a Viagra car too, this is the car with the biggest horn, right?
I've heard that, but I'll leave that up to you.
Well, tell us about it. How competitive was it? How did it race out on the track?
Actually, this car was run in 2003 by Mark Martin. Very strong program run by him and my dad. It was definitely a car to be reckoned with.
Look at this old banger here behind us, hosting a side valve V8. What an incredible thing. What's the story here, Jack?
Well, this is a remake of a 1934 Indy car. We created this car from scratch, and we competed in a race called the Great Race. It's a road rally that goes across the U.S., and it's not a race for speed. It's more for accuracy across checkpoints. And this car won the event, which was a really big deal, and plus it looks really cool.
These cars back in their 30s, side valve V8s, is where the pioneering of racing, it all began. What type of speeds would they do?
I believe around 80 to 100 miles an hour. You know, not real fast, but...
It was back then.
Oh yeah, and they weren't nearly as safe as cars today, so that was actually very fast.
When you scale it back to the domestic cars that were on the road back in the 1930s that, might have been your 30, 40 mile an hour cars, you had these cars out on racetracks doing double that speed. So I guess back then these were looked upon as just, well, virtually supersonic.
Oh yeah, and honestly, if you look at the tires, they did not have much patch to work with. I mean, you really had to have some guts to drive these cars.
Yeah, that's what I reckon too. Some of the drivers, they just would have had to have carried various parts of their anatomy around in a wheelbarrow.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Jack, this is an incredible car here, the 51 Victoria, the car that your father had when he was a young guy, right?
Yeah, it was a tough story. My dad loved his car. He got it when he was 16. Unfortunately, The car that he had was destroyed a few weeks later, allegedly in a car race. So, yeah, it's too bad.
That'd be right. Your dad would have been racing it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And when you look at it too, what a beautiful car. I mean, really. We had a bit of a talk off camera too about back in the day about these cars being virtually uncontrollable. I mean, they'd still get up to their 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, but then what? Skinny tyres, no brakes, you know, slow ratio steering, just no turning back.
Yeah, and the suspension back then was a lot harder to deal with as well. Yeah, approaching the limit with an older car is not like a modern day car. You can't just come back from that edge or go over the edge and come back. You go over that edge, you probably won't come back.
Jack, what's it like out there as a NASCAR racer, lap after lap after lap? What's it feel like?
In my series, actually, I race in the Continental Tire Series, which is owned by NASCAR. It's a blast. I love racing Mustangs against all the other manufacturers, and saying going out there and trying to get victories for Ford. And
oh, Jack, look at this big bad Falcon. 598 cubic inches, 8.7 quarter mile at 155 miles an hour. That's no slouch.
Oh no, it isn't, Fletch.
A light body car like that with those cubes under the hood, say no more.
Yeah, a little different than the Viagra car, but I guess you can't have everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Viagra car, the car that stays up all night. We've got an early shot there on screen now, the car that your dad had. This is a replica of that same car, right?
Yeah, it's, again, a car that he used to street race, and it became quite famous because he never lost.
Yeah, and I mean, such a rare car too, being a two-door. It's just, very cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Look, honestly, you must just be in awe here. I mean, have you got a personal favourite?
It's hard to pick just one, but I do have a couple cars that I've worked on myself here, and my personal street car is here, the #1 Blackjack, serial #1. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, it's hard not to just fall in love with a lot of these cars.
It's just like a mass appreciation right across the board, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jack, thanks for coming in. I know you came in specially to have a talk to me today, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming, Fletch.
That's all right. Hey, Jack Roush Jr., hey? Doesn't get much better than that. Good on you, buddy.
All right, thank you.
If you're after the DVD boxed sets of Classic Restos along with other Classic Restos merchandise, don't forget to go to classicrestos.com.au. And while you're there, check out the major sponsors as well. Stay where you are, back with more right after this. And wasn't the Roush collection really something? Motoring through Detroit as you do, along the way, if you're a gearhead, there's another must-see, and that is the Lingenfelter collection. Tell me what you think of this. What started out as 5 cars packed into a modest 3-car garage has since grown into a beautiful collection of more than 200 unique cars in a 40,000 square foot space. Over the years, it has been an amazing and an exciting transformation. Today, this collection holds a variety of Corvettes, muscle cars and exotics. Several vehicles in the collection are among the most rare automobiles in the world, including a Bugatti Veyron, an Enzo Ferrari and a Lamborghini Reventon. Since the Lingenfelter name is synonymous with Corvettes, it might be surprising that the first collector car that started it all wasn't even a Corvette. It was in fact a 1969 Jaguar XKE, which has since departed to make room for all of the other magnificent cars that are now part of this collection. Corvettes definitely make a strong appearance in the collection, as approximately 40% of the collection is dedicated to the Chevy muscle car, boasting some phenomenal new and classic additions. With me now, Ken Lingenfelter. How are you, Ken?
I'm doing great, Fletch. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, but I'm very stuck for words. This would have to go down as the epitome in terms of car collections. Absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you.
A credit to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Tell me, where did it all start with you?
You know, I've probably been a car guy ever since I could start to walk. I mean, my dad says that when I was 4 years old, I was standing in the back seat of the car and naming every car that went by. So we had a thing, we had these small cars they called Matchbox Series cars. They were made in England, and I had a collection of those things that was just crazy by the time I was 10. But the thing that really hooked me was in 1963, the Corvette Stingray brought out the split-window Corvette. And I saw that car, and that just did it for me. That was the best. So.
Especially the history, too, of winning Le Mans, too, in 1960. It was a great accolade for Corvette at the time.
Yeah, Corvette is an incredible product, and as you can tell from around here, we've got quite a few of them. So
it's nice, though, on that note, that you've got such a vast array of cars. I mean, you appreciate your American cars, but you've also got the European in here as well.
yeah, again, the collection is made up of cars that I like. It's not any specific. You won't see all Chevrolets or all Fords or anything like that. These are cars that over the years as I grew up that I came to love and enjoy and raced. I did a lot of racing back in the day. I was a drag racer and a road racer, so a lot of the cars in the muscle car room are cars that at the time I could not afford and now I can, so I've got them back there.
What's your most favourite car? Is there one particular car in the whole collection in these three bays that just means that extra bit to you?
Yeah, I think the Ferrari Enzo has got to be pretty close to the top of the list. That car is a blast to drive. It represented some time in my life where it was kind of a reward. I'd worked real hard to get the businesses to a certain level, and when I achieved that level, the Enzo was the prize. So the Bugatti Veyron is pretty special, obviously. The Lamborghini Reventon. But to be very honest with you, Corvette is just really in my blood, and my daily driver is a new ZR1 Corvette, and it does everything. I can take that car out and race it. I can take it up to the grocery store. I can take my daughter for a ride. It's just a great, great, great car.
So if a car comes along, do you instantly buy it? Like if you went back to your office in a half hour's time and you saw something online and that really, you liked it, would you just grab it, or would you sit back and sit on the fence for a while?
No, I don't sit on the fence. It's if you snooze, you lose. The thing is, if you see something that's really good, you better grab it. And I'll tell you what, I spend a lot of time on eBay. And I have a lot of fun on eBay, too. And there's just a lot of things to choose from. So, and mostly I've done pretty well there. So.
Timing too. Living in the United States is a big thing. I mean, you don't have to freight the cars overseas. I mean, they're here. Obviously, in other countries, if we want American cars, we're looking at shipping. I mean, this is the country where, well, basically where it all happens. And, the resources at the end of your fingertips, the cars can be located. I guess, you've been fortunate there in that regard as well.
That's true, Fletch, but I have to tell you, through our performance company, Lingenfelter Performance, we have brought cars over and tuned them and shipped them to Australia and other parts of the world, too. So we get an opportunity to share some of our engineering and things like that with people around the world. But we've got a definite advantage of picking up cars and finding good things to have fun with.
Ken, tell me, what is your thought, when you look back at the cars built in the 50s and the 60s with all the stainless steel and their shapes, and now obviously late model cars have gone well away from that. They've improved in other areas in terms of drivability. But what's your thoughts? I mean, obviously your passion is Corvette. You must have a lot of time for the old designs.
Oh, I really appreciate the old designs. In fact, that's kind of what made Detroit what it is. My dad was a GM executive and was involved with a company called Fisher Body. They did the coach work for a lot of General Motors cars, and there's a 66 Olds Toronado in the back there that is just the epitome of design. He was very involved in that car from a pilot program to production, and there are several cars that I have in the collection that, from my perspective, are what design was all about. Now, having said that, the real older cars, the cars that are back prior to 1940 and such, I really appreciate those cars. I like looking at them. I don't necessarily want to own them all that much.
I'm the same too. You look at some of the Roadsters and just the way they look with their running boards and their wire spoke wheels and slightly wider tyres. They certainly look fat. Talking about that Oldsmobile though, I mean, the epitome and styling there in terms of a front wheel drive car. No transmission hump in the floor pan. Some very forward design features there with that car.
Yeah, the fastback look to it, the flip up headlights. There were a lot of firsts for that car. And I'll often think about the 1967 Cadillac Eldorado also. Just an absolute gorgeous car. The tail of that car, the fins on the taillights by the taillights, just beautiful styling.
The thing is, the big three made cars of different shapes. They all rode extremely well, but it was also back in an era too where when one was coming towards you, you knew what type it was.
Well, there's no question about that. And, the brands were very distinct. I mean, you think back of the 1955 Chevy, the 56, 57, 58, into the 60s. Each one of those cars had a completely different look to it. And the tooling and the design and the engineering that had to go in to make those changes every year must have been pretty dramatic.
Good on you, Ken. Look, I really appreciate your time here this afternoon. Fletch Tours is happening in 2014, so all going to plan. There might be a group of people next year that might drop on by and have a look at your collection. Have you got any objections there, Ken?
No, anytime. You guys are always welcome. The mission for this car collection has been the charity work we do. We do fundraisers here. And we're always welcoming people to come in and look at the cars. And it's been very successful in its fundraising because people really do like to visit the collection and enjoy the cars that are here. So,
good on you. Ken, you stand for some great things and you've got a wonderful collection. So congratulations and thank you very much again.
Thanks, Fletch. Very good.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed today's Detroit-based episode of Classic Restos. And I'd like to give an extended thank you to Ken Lingenfelter. Ken has provided us with this amazing Cadillac Escalade for our time here in Detroit. His generosity represents a further extension of the type of people awaiting you here in the Motor City of Detroit. Believe me, the people of Detroit will welcome you with open arms. As you know, classicrestos.com.au is the website that you need for the DVD boxed sets of Classic Restos, along with other Classic Restos merchandise as well. While you're there, check out the major sponsors too as to how they can help you. As I say at the end of every episode, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like Classic Restos on Facebook. Facebook.com/Classic Restos TV. And episodes can be seen at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, National Parts Depot and Penrite Oil.